wanted to say very good morning and welcome, and thank you for joining me today. We're just going to chat a little bit about mindset and goal setting, specifically for beginner runners or those who are returning to running after a break. I just also wanted to say thank you very much to Connect Macquarie Park Innovation District for this opportunity to meet you all and train with you. I'm very excited to see what we are going to do. Today, I'm just going to talk to you very quickly about me, and then we're going to talk about running specifically, some goals, the power of habits, some practicalities about running, hacks and tips for starting running, continuing running, training, and races. And I'll offer you some resources. Just got to keep an eye on the session as well, that I don't miss anybody who's waiting to be admitted. Seems to be okay. So, hi everyone, my name is Andrea. I'm also known as the Slow Coach. I'm based in St Ives on the North Shore of Sydney, but I do train in various locations, and I also run some online coaching sessions, which I'll tell you more about later. But the thing that I think sets me apart from my experience of other running coaches is that I have never really been athletic. I've never been active. I've never been the sporty girl. So my background at school was that I was very academic. I was very into things like singing in the choir and drama and reading books and spending as much time on the couch as I could. Then, of course, life got in the way and I learned some lessons. And as a result of that, I became a lot more active and I've got into running, and running has quite literally changed my life. And it's just something that I'd like to share with all of you today. But my big life learning about running is that ordinary bodies are capable of extraordinary things. You don't need to look like a runner. You don't need to be particularly thin or particularly fast or particularly fit. You don't even need to eat particularly well. You just need to have a go, which is what I did. So about probably 10 or 12 years ago, we were living in Perth at the time. I had two fairly young children, and I'd just come through a series of fairly traumatic life events, which just led me to a moment of realization, which I'll tell you more about later, of wanting to treasure my healthy body while I had it. So I decided to run because it was cheap. There was no barrier to entry apart from a pair of running shoes. And my husband has always been a runner, so he kind of explained a lot of it to me. He encouraged me, and he was quite happy to babysit the kids while I went running. And the child-free component was very attractive to me at the time. So I downloaded a free Couch to 5K app, and I started plodding away up and down the beachfront in Perth. And my progress was slow and often went backwards. It took me a long time. I think it took me 24 weeks to do the 12-week Couch to 5K program. I kept repeating the week because I just never felt comfortable. But eventually, after 5Ks, I graduated to 10, and from 10 I graduated to 12, and from 12 to 21, and so on. I've probably done about, 15 or so half marathons, and then last year, for the first time, I did my first full marathon and also my first ultra marathon. I ran 50 kilometers on my 50th birthday in lockdown. So I've come a long way. A real couch potato to finish line story. And despite a decade or so of really consistent effort, consistent training, I have never really got any faster. And what I've realized is that, to me anyway, pace just doesn't matter. I've embraced running because of the amazing headspace it gives me. It untangles all the knots in my head. It gives me time away from my children. It gives me time to think. It gives me time on my feet. It's very powerful in giving me a sense of personal progress. So I always have this kind of feeling of where I am on the ruler, as it were, as I'm tracking towards a particular goal, if it's 2Ks or 5Ks or whatever the case may be. And it's given me a sense of personal pride. So from someone who couldn't at one stage run for the phone, I can now cross the finish line of a marathon and look back at myself and think, oh my God, I did that. I did well. And personal pride is not something you can buy, but it is amazing if you can obtain it. It's life-changing. And my outlook on so many things is different as a result of running. I'm so much more confident. I have met the most amazing friends. I've developed new skills. I really am quite a different person because of running. And all of those things that really matter to me have got nothing to do with how fast I can run. It's really important that I stress this. I can't run fast at all. I'm in 3 running clubs, I think, or maybe 4, and I'm the slowest member of all of them. And that's never mattered, not one bit. I am a very different version from the schoolgirl who stood in the back row of the choir and you know, pretended to be sick at athletics carnivals. And it's a wonderful feeling. And yeah, so I just need to stress that point, that running is about so many things that have got nothing to do with running. And it's just something that I'd like to share with you. But in order to become whatever version of the runner you want to be, it involves a couple of questions at the outset. So this is why I thought today's rain event gave us a really good opportunity just to set some, just to kind of create a bit of clarity around why we are meeting and why we are running. Perhaps the hardest question to answer, but it's one I'll challenge you to try and answer, is what do you want? If you ask a 3-year-old what they want, they can answer you in an instant. You know, I want a Barbie or a new Batman suit. But you ask an adult, they can almost never tell you, what do you want? And obviously that pertains to all aspects of your life, but specifically around running. Do you want to look a certain way? Do you want to run a certain distance? Do you want to run at a certain pace? Do you just want a new experience? All of those things are valid answers, and you might have a totally different one. That's completely fine. There is no correct answer, but it's just an important one to try and pose for yourself, because it's just going to inform the decisions you make along the way. Once you've got an idea of what you want, let's just say you want to be able to run 2 kilometers without stopping, I'd really encourage you to visualize it. There's a lot of science behind this, the power of visualization. Picture yourself crossing that finishing line. Picture yourself in, a particular outfit. Picture yourself with a medal around your neck, whatever it may be. Those things are going to carry you a long way. They fire up the neurons, they make the connections in your brain, and they will really, really, really carry you forward. Alongside your visualization are goals. Now, it's important to stress that different coaches have very different outlooks on goals. I'm a huge fan of them, but I completely understand that they don't work for everybody. So if this doesn't work for you, if any aspect of what I say today doesn't work for you, just disregard it. It's like a menu, and you can pick and choose the bits that you like. But goals are massive in my life. They give me something to aim for. They give me something to, push me out of bed when I don't want to get up. And they also help me track my progress. So I can kind of feel like I'm on week 6 of a 12-week program towards goal X, or I've achieved it, or whatever the case may be. I love having a goal, not only for my running, but for all aspects of my life. However, I'll share a little hack with you that took me years to learn. Have a main goal, as I've already said, but here's the thing. Have a second goal. It took me a long time to learn this lesson. What I used to do was set a goal. Let's just say my first one, for example, that I've already spoken about, was how badly I wanted to run my first 5K. So I trained and I trained and I trained, and it took a long time, and I eventually did it. And then I was so happy. I was so proud of myself. I've done it. I've run my first 5K, and I hopped on the couch and I stayed there for 6 months. And then, of course, I had to start all over again. So I did that more than once. To be honest, I probably did that 5 or 6 times. I would train and train and train. I'd get to 5Ks or 10Ks or 12, and then I would just relax. I would reward myself. I'd dive into a tub of ice cream and I wouldn't come out for months on end. So here's the thing. I would say have a second goal. So let's say, for example, your first goal might be to run 2Ks. Just have a little tab at the back of your brain that's open that says, and when I've done 2, I might think about doing 5. Or if I can run to the corner, then after the corner, I'll think about running to the light post beyond that. But it's just that second goal that will keep you moving forward. Having said all of that, I also don't believe that your second goal needs to be bigger than your first goal. I am really over this running ethic, this kind of relentless self-improvement thing that running seems to discuss all the time. There's so many metrics in running. People will talk about pace and times and PBs and negative splits and getting faster and getting stronger and getting better. And it's everywhere in the mainstream running conversation. And that's fine. But I just think there's another conversation that's worth having, which is you don't necessarily want to get faster. But let's just say you want to run 5Ks, and then the second time you want to run 5Ks and actually enjoy it. Or you want to, you want to run, but you want to have your kids at the finish line cheering for you. Or whatever that second goal, it doesn't need to be bigger and better all the time. It just needs to talk to a friend about it, or post on social media, or attach a fundraising component, or whatever works for you. But being accountable is a great way to kind of trick yourself into making yourself do the work. And then far more powerful than having a goal is the importance of having a why. So I find that this is the biggest motivator, or it's not even a motivator. It's like a source of fuel that keeps me going and has done for more than a decade. Goals are quite temporary. You run your 5K and you're done. But having a why it's enduring. So about 16 or 17 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And we went through a pretty rough time, but fortunately he's completely fine now. As a result of that, we lost our fertility and we had a really tough time getting and staying pregnant. And in all of that trauma was 2 other really close friends diagnosed with cancer, and unfortunately both of them passed away. So while I was going through an enormous just chapter of grief after grief after grief, losing babies and losing friends, and a lot of other shit thrown in there too. But I had a moment of realization somewhere along the line that I was healthy and there were so many people in my life who were not. And I realized that I had the one thing that they were coveting, which was a healthy body. They were in pain. They were in a constant state of uncertainty. They were in a state of frailty, and I wasn't. And yet, despite having this incredible privilege, this healthy body, I was taking it for granted. I was squandering it. I was sitting on the couch and watching daytime TV and eating bag after bag of Doritos. And I just realized that it was a privilege and I was wasting it. So I just thought, what if one day when I am not well, I can look back on my life and go, wow, I had a healthy body at one stage and I marked it and I used it and I cherished it. And that gift will be something that my future self can look back on and go, okay, I didn't take my health for granted. I used my body and I pushed it and I took it for a run to see what it could do. And I created some amazing memories. So that's my why. Yours might look completely different. You might want to make your kids proud. You might want to earn a certain medal. You might want to have office bragging rights. Whatever the case is, find a why, because it'll fuel you on cold mornings and rainy days when you don't want to get up and train. But honestly, in more than a decade, there hasn't been a single run where I haven't thought about the friends that I've lost. I haven't thought about the people in my life who can't run. So I run on their behalf, and I run because I can. Habits are a big part of a great running program. If you haven't come across the power of 1% on the thinking around that, please Google it. There's some great TED Talks. There's an awesome book. You don't need to change your life in massive ways. There's this overwhelming, all-consuming, transformative narrative thing. It's not sustainable. But the power of micro habits, the power of tiny changes, the power of changing 1% of something is enormous once it accumulates. So in a running program, for example, you only need to go 1% further than you did yesterday, or do one more squat than you did yesterday, or eat 1% cleaner, or whatever the case is. Tiny, tiny changes add up over time. So yeah, please Google the power of 1%. Small steps, as I've said. If you're out on a run on your own, think about only making it to the next light post or the next tree. A lot of running is mental. Actually, let me rephrase that. Almost all of running is mental. It's surprisingly not physical at all. It's about being brave. It's about showing up. It's about not giving up. It's about being present, and it's about being consistent. If you want to achieve something in a running program, you only need to do one thing. Only one thing, and that is don't give up. Consistency will get you to any finish line all the time. I've already touched on having a why, but now let's talk about how to start. I understand that many of you might be beginner runners or coming back to running after an injury or after a time away. And we've certainly all had enough challenges thrown at us during COVID, probably carrying some extra kilos like I am, or, a far bigger mental load. So how do we start knowing all of that? Well, I'm a huge advocate of walking. Walking is a very valid form of training. It's even a valid form of running. We will often start a running program by just walking for a minute and then running for a minute. And we repeat that for 20 minutes or 25 minutes. And gradually, as the weeks progress, we will shorten the walks and lengthen the runs. Another way to do it is lamppost to lamppost. Run one lamppost, walk one lamppost. It's fine to stop. It's fine to take a breath. It's fine to take a drink. Don't feel like you have to run from the minute you get up or the minute you start. It's a form of interval training, which we'll specifically do when we're coaching in person. But if you are interested, there is a free Slouch to Slowly plan on my website at Run with the Slow Coach. So you're welcome to download that. That will get you to 2 kilometers in a couple of weeks. And you'll find it really, really easy because so much of the program involves walking. It's really practical. When the going gets tough, and it will, there's a couple of hacks that might help you along the way. It's really important to know that running doesn't always feel good. In fact, a lot of runs can feel really, really dreadful, even after you've been running for decades. Not every run and not every race will go to plan, and failure and this sort of periodization of training, sometimes doing well and sometimes not doing well, is just a big part of the running picture. And learning to cope with it is a huge part of the mental battle that we've already spoken about. Running is mental. But there are some great techniques. There's a particular coach called Jeff Galloway, if you're welcome to Google it, who speaks about how you can break up a run through walking, something I've already touched on. But Jeff is our best friend. You'll get to know him well. Chunk up the run or chunk up the race, that you're only going to do it until the red car, and then you're going to give yourself a break, or the lamppost, or the dog with the waggy tail on the corner. Or if you're at a park run or something like that, you're going to run until you catch up with the guy in the red shirt. You just set up these little chapters for yourself and break it down. You only think about the section that you're in. Makes it a lot easier than being overwhelmed by the enormity of the run ahead of you. Music can be really, really helpful. Set up a running playlist or jump onto one of the many options on Spotify. Music can really, really make a run feel easier. Having a mantra. Having a mantra is enormously powerful. So I will often write something on my arm when I'm running. If I'm fundraising and doing a particular race, I might write the names of all the people who've contributed to my fundraising, and I will think about them on every kilometer, think about how they've enriched my life. The mantras that I use, Lance Armstrong is not someone I think we should all really look up to anymore, but he did at the height of his training, at the height of success, he used to say, pain is temporary, pride lasts forever. And I've always loved that saying. So it's something that I will often use if a race or a run is tough. You know, this is temporary, but at the end of the run, I'll be proud of myself, and that will last forever. Every run can be broken into 3 main parts, and I will run them quite differently. So first part of a run, I tend to run with my head because it's the bit that tells me that I need to go out at a certain tempo, or I'm running for a certain cause, and I run it kind of logically, trying to hold back on that impulse, which always tends to push us out too fast at the beginning of a run. If you're at a race or at a park run and everyone takes off, it's very easy to get caught up in that sort of massive rush at the beginning, and you go out too fast and you burn out quite quickly. So your head needs to hold you back. It's a mental game. Running is a mental game. The middle section, we run with our legs. That's where our training kicks in. It's like, right, my body can do this. I've got this. Look at me, I'm awesome. And you run with your legs. The final section is when it gets hard, and we run that with our heart. So that's when we remember our why. We visualize the finish line, and we run because we really, really want to be there. Gosh, I know I'm galloping through this, but we are nearly done, I promise. There are some practicalities that might make running a little bit easier too. The first is the importance of strength training. So when we do train together at Macquarie Park, the first part of every session, we'll always do strength training and a really thorough warm-up. Strength training is your biggest insurance policy against injury. Strong muscles mean strong tendons, strong ligaments, strong fascia. And all of those are basically the trampoline that protect us against injury, because running is a very high impact activity. About 6 times your body weight is going through your legs every time you land. So strength training is vital if you don't want to end up with, sore knees, sore hips, sore backs. We've got to make sure that all of those things stay really, really nice and strong. Secondly, it's really important to have a training plan. So whether you train with me or you're training on your own, I would say make sure you follow a plan, something that'll get you to 2Ks or 5Ks or your first marathon or whatever it is you're training for. There's millions of free training plans available online. You'll find a couple on my website, or if you want me to create one specially for you, I will do that with pleasure. But having a training plan just makes sure that you're following something quite safely. Hopefully you're following it in a periodic way, which just means you get proper rest breaks, and that your progress is incremental. It's really important to pay attention to rest, sleep, and nutrition. They are as important, if not more important, than your running. Rest days are as important as workout days, because that's when your muscles are recovering and they're getting stronger. So pay attention to those. And just know that not every race or run will feel great. It's part of the picture, I'm afraid. Learning to fail and learning to suffer is a part of the running picture, but it's a huge life skill. We as runners are really good at being comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's a skill we actively seek out, and it takes us a long way, not just in running, but in life. I've touched on this already, but step down weeks and rest are really, really critical. So if you're doing a big training plan, an 18-week training plan, say towards a half marathon, every 4 or 5 weeks, you just have a week that's significantly easier than the others. That periodization just means that your body can recover properly, and your fitness, you actually develop your fitness when you're resting. So it's really important to not go hard all the time. And it's a mistake that runners always make, and it's a guaranteed pathway to injury. So rest and step down weeks are vital. Signing up for races is an awesome way to keep yourself motivated. I certainly train much harder when I know I've got a half marathon coming up than if I'm just cruising. So pick one. There's a great, the Sydney race calendar is actually opening up right now. There's some great options available locally. There's a Linfield Fun Run, I think at the beginning of April. There's the Mother's Day Classic. There's the Ku-ring-gai Fun Run, and if you're looking for something a bit harder, there's the Sydney Morning Herald Half Marathon, and there's also some great trail runs around Manly Dam and the Jabulani Challenge here at Bobbin Head, and of course further afield, all over Sydney. So sign up for a race if that's going to work for you, if that's going to help you keep you motivated. And if you don't want to do in-person races, there's some awesome virtual challenges. There's something called Run Down Under, where you sign up and you literally run around Australia in a virtual capacity, and the little map tracks your progress of how far you've run and how close you are to completing the distance between Sydney and Melbourne, or and over a period of a couple of years, you'll run all the way around Australia. And it connects you with a great virtual community of runners who are doing the same challenge as well. So it's a lot of fun. Gamifying running is a great way to stay engaged. And don't underestimate the power of rewards. If you want to, treat yourself to a new pair of running shoes, or, a big ice cream, or whatever it is, but have a reward after a particular milestone. It's just another way to keep those little, light bulbs flashing in our brains. And make sure that you plug into the resources. There's a lot of resources available to us as runners. Join a running club. There is one. I actually offer a free running club called the North Shore Run Club. So you're very welcome to join us in St Ives every Thursday night at 6 p.m. We meet at Warramoo Oval on Warramoo Road in St Ives Chase. We run about 5Ks, but if you don't want to run, you can walk. Plenty of members just walk or run, in a combination, or just do part of the course, or just come for the drinks, because that's a big part of running. So after every run club, we stick around for a social BYO drink as well. It's a great way to make some friends. Runners are awesome. It doesn't always feel that way when you're standing outside the running community looking in, because they all look a certain way. They have, amazing abs and expensive t-shirts from overseas races, and they use jargon. But the truth is they're incredibly inclusive. You've just got to kind of dive in. Where was I going with that? Yeah, come to North Shore Run Club, or join one that's closer to you, because it's a great way to just kind of tap into the awesome power of running. If you haven't yet discovered Parkrun, think about signing up for that. Parkrun is a free worldwide initiative. It's a free timed 5K every Saturday morning. The closest one to me is here in St Ives, but there are some great options in Ryde and at Sydney Olympic Park, or all over Sydney, all over Australia, all over the world. It's every Saturday. It's usually at 8 a.m. Some of them are at 7. You just need to check. It's completely free. If you want to, you can download a barcode off the Parkrun website, and then you will get a little email every week with your time and all your stats. If you're into stats, it's incredible, because it tells you improvements and where you sit relative to your age grading, and where you came in your age category, and how you improved, week on week, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not into stats, it's just a great community activity. Socials. So my Slow Coach running community will frequently have these free social runs. So feel free to follow the Slow Coach on social media, and you'll get invited to all of those. Join a couple of online forums, or search for motivational images or quotes on Pinterest, because these are all the different ways that you can kind of fuel your interest, keep yourself motivated and stay engaged. Facebook groups are great. Strava, if you haven't yet discovered Strava, it's a kind of social media for runners and cyclists and swimmers. You can sign up for free, and again, it just tracks your run. It gamifies it for you. It gives you a little map afterwards of where you ran, and how you've done relative to previous runs on that route, and whether or not you have local legend status. And there's just a couple of great little hacks. I could talk about it in a lot more detail, but I'm trying to get through. I've got another 10 minutes or so to go. Garmin training plans, if you want to buy a watch, a running watch, they're expensive, but they are a great investment. They'll frequently come with, plans that will literally beep at you or buzz at you or flash up on your watch. Go hard for 2 minutes, take a break. It's like having a coach on your hand, really. YouTube and movies are really, really motivational. There's so much free information out there. I love a YouTube channel called The Running Channel. Tend to just watch it once a week or so. They'll bring out new content on all aspects of running. If you're looking for some good movies to watch, I can't recommend highly enough a movie called Brittany Runs a Marathon. A really, really ordinary girl achieving some amazing things. It's a true story. Or a documentary on SBS, which you can download on demand, I think. It's called I'm Not a Runner. Please watch it. It's incredible. A community of men and women from Adelaide who take on the New York Marathon despite being old, injured, overweight, all the challenges we all face. So really, really inspiring. And books. There are incredible running books out there. I'll share a list of books with you when we train in person. And of course, you always have the option of hiring a coach. For now, for the next 6 weeks, you have one. You have me, which is amazing. And I will make sure you get plugged into some really great discounts. So discounts to races, discounts to gear and merchandise, and discounts to shoes, which are critical. So there's a shoe shop here in St Ives called the Shoe Guru. It's a specialist running store. I'd really encourage you to get fitted if you haven't had a shoe fitting recently. Make sure you speak to an expert runner and get the right shoes. They are, really probably the only critical component of a running program is your shoes. And if you train with me, if you tell them you train with a slow coach, you'll get 10% discount. Okay, so I talked a lot. Now, I know there's not many of us here, but if you would like to ask me any questions, you have my full attention. You're welcome to just pop it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. I'll stick around for another 2 or 3 minutes if anyone wants to ask me anything. Otherwise, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in person next Wednesday, hopefully with some better weather. When we do meet next week, I will ask you a little bit about what you would like to achieve while we run together. I'll ask you whether you want to. Whether you're just running for fun, running for fitness, wanting to just challenge yourself, or if you do have a particular distance in mind, I'll make sure I'm really clear on all of that. I'll ask you about your injury histories, so I can be sensitive to that while we plan our training. And I'll just make sure we have a proper plan to get you to your personal finish line.
Hi, Andrea. I just wanted to ask, what are the strengths training aspects of it?
Yeah, sure, great question. So it's usually completely just your own body weight resistance training. The key components of any running strength training program are things like squats, calf raises, deadlifts, single-legged work, a lot of balance work, and a little bit of core. So not much, but a bit of upper body strength, mostly core, glutes, quads. So you'll find I'll make you do a million different variations of squats and calf raises. So we're just completely, we continue to stress and release all those muscles to develop this resilience that we need to cope with the impact. So our training sessions will usually comprise of a very short walk just to warm up. Then we'll do about 20 minutes, 25 minutes of strength work. And then we'll do 20, 25 minutes or so of actual running.
Sounds good.
It's just important that we have that strength to offset the impact that we're going to load our bodies with.
Do you also sort of train us how to sort of run? Because some people like run with sort of hard impact on the soles, or some run on tippy toes.
Yeah.
Is there a particular way to run?
Look, it's a great question. But the reality is, for most of us, you don't need to change your natural running style. The real elite runners will work very hard on a specific style of running. But for myself, the middle and the back of the packers out there, I just kind of believe like that your body has had 20 or 30, or in my case, 50 years of getting really good at moving a certain way. And there isn't a really it's not really critical to undo that work unless it's causing you an injury. So however you run is probably completely fine. I will have a look at it. I can give you a little bit of gait analysis if you want it, but the chances are your running style is fine. Some people do naturally land on their toes. Some people will naturally land on their midfoot. The one style we try and avoid is a real strong heel strike, which is when your leg goes up really far in front of you and you come down hard on your heel. But even that, in some instances, is actually going to be okay, especially if you've got the right shoes on. Shoes can actually change the way your feet fall as well. So when you get fitted and you tell them you have a heel strike, they might specifically put you in something of a steeper drop. Just means you've got a bit more shoe underneath your heel, which will automatically mean your foot comes down with your weight going through your midfoot a little bit better. Overall, the only thing we really try and do is keep our core engaged and our backs nice and straight, and we keep our legs moving underneath us, a bit like a duck swimming, as opposed to, you know, the Iliad Kipchagis and the beautiful Kenyans and Ethiopians who can run with this gazelle-like stride and their legs go for miles out in front and kick up way behind them. You'll see they have this kind of heel flick that comes up almost behind their heads. We don't need to do any of that. We tend to just keep our feet under our hips and our bodies moving more or less in a mostly vertical plane, a very slight, maybe 5% lean forward to just propel us. But apart from that, yeah, running gait, we'll certainly look at it. I would never discount it. If you're doing something that's clearly going to cause you injury, I'll suggest we change it. But for the most part, the way you run is probably already perfect.
Excellent.
Good question, though. Thank you.
There's another question.
Yeah.
So when we do meet, what's the distance we'll be sort of engaging on the first session? And
it's going to be very much dependent on what you want to do and what you can do. So I won't set a one-size-fits-all goal for everybody. So we might have runners there who can already comfortably run 10Ks. I don't think that's the case, but it might happen. I think most of us are beginner runners or returning to running after a period away. So we'll just I'll get a sense of that. But whatever you tell me you can do, or whatever you tell me you want to work towards, I'll set a plan for you for that. So as I said, we'll probably start with a combination of running or walking. And if your goal is simply to get to, say, 2Ks in 6 weeks, I'll make sure that, you know, we're running, say, around the block or up and down the street or whatever. And if there's someone who is faster or more capable or wants to go further, I'll just tell them to go further up the hill before they come down, whereas you might just stay a little bit closer. But the program will be adjusted based on who's there and what they're hoping to get out of it. I won't make you do anything you don't want to do.
I can't wait to get into it all.
Oh, thank you. I can't wait to meet you.
Yeah, good. Thank you for this.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for coming. I'm sorry there's been a fairly small turnout, but we do have about 12 people registered for the course in person. So hopefully we'll have a slightly bigger group when we get together. I have recorded today, so I'll make sure that you and everybody else gets a copy of this recording. But you're also very welcome to browse. There's resources on my website at Run with the Slow Coach. Or reach out to me via email or any of my social channels. I'll always make myself available to answer questions.
If some of my colleagues want to join after this Zoom meeting, can I ask them to join in as well?
Yeah, with pleasure. Absolutely. It's free and anyone is welcome. And you don't need to be a staff member at Connect Macquarie Park. Anyone can do it. So it's an invitation that the team there have extended to the whole community. So you're welcome to tell your friends about it. And if you want to continue training with me once the 6-week program is over, I'll give you options to do that as well.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Andrea, apologies I was late.
No, not a problem.
But the information was really good. Thanks.
Okay, no worries. Well, I'm really looking forward to meeting you both next week. And yeah, as I said, in the meantime, if you need anything, just reach out. Otherwise, I hope you have a really, really great day.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All the best.
Bye.
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 Bye.